Lesson 68, Linking Words in Writing. Hello and welcome to this lesson. Today, we are going to talk about linking words in writing, the expressions we use to organize our ideas, explain things, and refer to other parts of a text. These are essential for formal writing, essays, and reports. So, let us get started. Organizing a formal text. First, let us look at expressions used to organize a formal text. We can start a list with first, firstly, or first of all. First, we must consider. Then, we move to the next point. Next. It is important to remember that. Secondly and thirdly are also used with first or firstly for lists. To introduce the final point in a list, we use finally or lastly. Finally, we should recall that. To change to a new topic, we can say turning to the question of foreign policy. To indicate that we will not deal with a particular question here, we use leaving aside the question of pollution. There are also other reasons. To make a point that is a side issue, we use in parenthesis. In parenthesis, let us not forget that. To sum up the main points, we use in summary or to sum up. In summary, we may state that. For a more formal summary, we use in sum. In sum, the economic issues are at the center of this debate. Finally, to finish the text, we use in conclusion or to conclude. In conclusion, I should like to point out that common mistake to avoid. Before we move on, let us clear up a common mistake. Lastly is used when making a final point. For example, lastly, let us consider what the future holds. At last, on the other hand, means finally after a long time. For example, at last I have finished my essay. What a relief. Linking words for explaining, exemplifying, rephrasing, etc. Now, let us look at linking words for explaining, giving examples, and rephrasing. To explain or rephrase, we use in other words, or that is to say, to learn new words properly, a lot of recycling is needed. In other words, you have to study the same words over and over again. That is to say, is much more formal. To give examples, we use for example or for instance. Some English words are hard to pronounce. For example, eighth. We can also use say. It might be possible, say, to include the parents in the discussion. This is similar to for example, and it is also common in spoken English. To indicate that an explanation will be short and not comprehensive, we use briefly. The Parliament has different committees. Briefly, these consist of two main types. To make what you are saying sound less definite or precise, we use so to speak, or as it were. She is, so to speak, living in a world of her own. As it were is more formal, referring backwards and forwards in the text. Finally, let us look at expressions used to refer to other parts of a text. To introduce a list, we use the following. The following points will be covered in this essay. To refer to something earlier in the text, we use above or earlier. It was stated above that the history of the USA is. To direct the reader to more information, we use see page 238 for more information. To indicate that examples will be given later, we use see below. Many writers have claimed this. See below. To refer to something on the next page, we use overleaf. A full list is given overleaf. To direct the reader to another chapter, we use for further details or discussion. For further details, see chapter 4. To ask someone to look at or read something formally, we use may I refer you to. May I refer you to page 3 of my last letter to you? Finally, to link a letter or email with an earlier text, we use with reference to your email of March 12th. So, that is our lesson on linking words in writing. These expressions will help you organize your ideas, explain things clearly, and refer to other parts of your text, making your formal writing more coherent and professional.